Are you aware that some countries are essentially off-limits for American citizens? Despite the United States' global influence and generosity, there are certain nations where Americans are unwelcome. In today's video, we'll delve into the reasons behind this and reveal the 10 countries that are particularly unfriendly towards American travelers in 2024. Welcome to our channel, where we explore various destinations around the globe. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss an update from us. Stay tuned until the end to get the complete story on these countries and the reasons they've become hostile to American visitors. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 10. Cuba. Travel restrictions for American tourists remain stringent due to the enduring U.S. embargo. While diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba have somewhat improved, the embargo continues to impose significant limitations on travel. Americans cannot visit Cuba for leisure purposes and must adhere to one of 12 specific authorized travel categories. These categories include family visits, journalistic activities, educational pursuits, and support for the Cuban people, among others. This restriction requires a clearly defined purpose for travel, greatly restricting the options for American tourists. The bureaucratic process of obtaining a visa for Cuba further complicates travel plans. Americans must acquire a Cuban tourist card or visa, which involves navigating a cumbersome application process. Since there is no Cuban embassy or consulate in the United States, applicants must go through Cuban embassies in third countries, adding an additional layer of complexity and inconvenience. This requirement often results in additional travel and logistical challenges, making the entire process more time-consuming and costly. Moreover, the rules and regulations governing travel to Cuba are subject to frequent changes. This regulatory fluidity can cause confusion and uncertainty for travelers, who must stay informed about the latest requirements to ensure compliance. Even after securing the necessary documentation, travelers must be prepared for further scrutiny, such as providing evidence of their authorized travel category and detailed travel itineraries. These additional steps contribute to the overall complexity and frustration involved in planning a trip to Cuba, making it a daunting destination for many American travelers. Number 9. Saudi Arabia. Since 2019, Saudi Arabia has increasingly opened its doors to international tourists with the introduction of a new tourist visa, marking a bold shift in the kingdom's approach to global tourism. This development offers American travelers the exciting opportunity to explore Saudi Arabia's historic treasures and natural wonders, including UNESCO World Heritage Sites and majestic desert landscapes. However, despite this newfound accessibility, the journey is not without its unique challenges, particularly for female travelers. Navigating the kingdom's strict cultural norms can be intricate, especially for women under the age of 25 who must be accompanied by a male family member. This requirement can complicate travel plans, especially for those embarking on solo trips or traveling with friends. Despite recent relaxations, the dress code remains stringent, requiring women to dress modestly by covering their shoulders and knees in public. This cultural facet provides insight into Saudi society's deeply entrenched traditions, necessitating a respectful and informed approach to local customs. Saudi Arabia's culture is heavily influenced by strict Islamic law, affecting every aspect of daily life, from attire and conduct to interactions between genders. For American tourists, this offers a rich and immersive cultural experience, though it requires a respectful and knowledgeable approach to local customs. The kingdom's blend of ancient traditions and modern hospitality presents a fascinating paradox, inviting visitors to engage deeply with its diverse heritage. Number 8. Iran. A land of ancient civilizations and stunning landscapes, remains a tantalizing yet challenging destination for American travelers due to strained diplomatic relations and stringent travel restrictions. Since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the relationship between the United States and Iran has been fraught with tension, leading to heavy sanctions and complex travel requirements for U.S. citizens. One of the most significant hurdles is the mandate that all visits must be part of an organized tour with a government-approved guide. This requirement ensures that travelers have limited freedom to explore independently, as they must follow a pre-arranged itinerary and be accompanied by their guide at all times. While this offers a structured and informative experience, it can also feel restrictive for those who prefer a more spontaneous and personal exploration of the country. The visa application process for Iran is notoriously complicated and requires careful navigation. Prospective visitors must obtain a visa authorization code through an Iranian travel agency before applying for the visa itself. The paperwork includes detailed personal information, travel itineraries, and sometimes additional documentation to prove the purpose of the visit. This extensive process, combined with the need for approval from multiple Iranian authorities, can be time-consuming and uncertain. Number 7. Turkmenistan. A Central Asian nation known for its ancient Silk Road cities and expansive desert landscapes, presents unique challenges and opportunities for American travelers. The country's authoritarian government tightly controls tourism, requiring visitors to obtain a visa in advance and be accompanied by approved guides. This structured approach ensures that tourists adhere to government-sanctioned itineraries and limits interaction with local residents. Turkmenistan's visa application process is complex and can be challenging for American travelers. Prospective visitors must provide detailed travel itineraries, accommodation bookings, and other documentation to justify their trip's purpose. The government's approval is required before a visa can be issued, and the process may involve multiple bureaucratic hurdles. Once in Turkmenistan, travelers must comply with strict regulations, including restrictions on photography and limited access to certain areas deemed sensitive or off-limits. Despite these challenges, Turkmenistan offers American tourists a glimpse into its rich cultural heritage, including ancient archaeological sites like Merv and Kunya or Genç, recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The country's distinctive blend of Turkish, Persian, and Soviet influences provides a fascinating backdrop for exploration, offering insights into its complex history and traditions. Number 6. Russia. A country of vast landscapes and rich cultural heritage, has become a complex and challenging destination for American travelers. The relationship between the United States and Russia has been marked by political tensions, making travel to this vast nation fraught with difficulties and risks. One of the primary challenges for American tourists is obtaining a visa. The process is notoriously arduous, requiring detailed applications that include comprehensive personal information, educational history, and professional affiliations. Even after navigating this bureaucratic maze, there is no guarantee of receiving a visa, adding to the uncertainty. This unpredictability alone can deter many would-be visitors. Additionally, the U.S. Department of State has issued a high-level travel advisory for Russia, warning against travel due to the potential for harassment by government officials, arbitrary law enforcement, and the threat of terrorism. Certain regions, such as Chechnya and Mount Elbrus, are flagged as particularly dangerous. This advisory underscores the complexities and potential dangers involved in traveling to Russia, urging Americans to weigh the risks carefully. Political tensions, exacerbated by ongoing conflicts like the situation in Ukraine, further strain U.S.-Russia relations. These tensions manifest in various forms, from strained diplomatic interactions to heightened scrutiny of American travelers. Reports of harassment and arbitrary detentions by Russian authorities add another layer of concern, making the prospect of visiting Russia daunting. Before we proceed with the remaining 5 countries, kindly subscribe to our channel if you have not done so. We guarantee you do not want to miss any updates from us. Your subscription keeps us motivated to continue providing valuable content. Let's get back to our list. Number 5. Syria. Once a land of ancient civilizations and historical treasures, has become one of the most perilous destinations for American travelers due to the ongoing civil war and extreme security risks. The country, embroiled in conflict since 2011, presents significant dangers, including high risks of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The U.S. Department of State has issued a strong advisory against all travel to Syria, citing the volatile security situation. Terrorist groups operate throughout the country, and the threat of kidnapping is particularly high, especially for Westerners. The safety and security landscape is extremely unpredictable, making it one of the most dangerous places in the world for tourists. Obtaining a visa to Syria is a complex and daunting process, further complicated by the lack of a Syrian embassy in the United States. American travelers must apply for a visa through a third country, which adds a layer of difficulty and uncertainty. Even if one manages to secure a visa, the logistical challenges and safety concerns remain formidable. The Syrian civil war has severely strained U.S.-Syria relations, making it virtually impossible for American tourists to visit safely. The conflict has devastated much of the country's infrastructure and cultural heritage, rendering many once celebrated historical sites inaccessible or destroyed. The humanitarian crisis further exacerbates the situation, with millions of Syrians displaced and in dire need of aid. Number 4. North Korea. A country shrouded in secrecy and marked by its authoritarian regime, remains one of the most inaccessible destinations for American travelers. The United States has imposed a strict travel ban on its citizens, prohibiting visits to North Korea except under very specific and limited circumstances. This ban, implemented during the Trump administration, underscores the profound tensions and mutual distrust between the two nations. For most Americans, North Korea is off-limits. The only exceptions to this ban are for those engaged in journalism, humanitarian work, or other special circumstances that require explicit approval from the U.S. Department of State. Even in these cases, travelers must obtain a special validation passport, which is rarely granted and involves a rigorous application process. This process ensures that only those with a compelling reason and substantial preparation can enter the country. Before the travel ban, visits to North Korea were permitted under strict conditions. Tourists were required to join organized tours and be accompanied by government-approved guides at all times. This strict supervision eliminated any possibility of independent exploration, as visitors were only allowed to see carefully curated aspects of the country. The intention behind these controlled tours was to present a specific image of North Korea, limiting any genuine interaction with the local population. The risks associated with travel to North Korea are significant. The regime's unpredictable nature and its history of detaining foreign nationals, often using them as leverage in political negotiations, pose severe risks to travelers. The infamous case of Otto Warmbier, an American student who was detained and subsequently died after being released in a coma, highlights the potential dangers of visiting the country. Number 3. Venezuela. Once a vibrant travel destination known for its stunning landscapes and rich cultural heritage, has become increasingly challenging and dangerous for American travelers due to political instability, economic collapse, and high crime rates. The country's ongoing socio-economic crisis has led to severe shortages of essential goods, hyperinflation, and widespread poverty, creating a volatile and precarious environment for tourists. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Venezuela, urging Americans to avoid all travel to the country due to crime, civil unrest, poor health infrastructure, and arbitrary arrest and detention of U.S. citizens. Violent crime, including armed robbery, carjacking, kidnapping, and murder, is pervasive throughout Venezuela, posing significant risks to travelers. The political situation remains highly volatile, with frequent protests, demonstrations, and clashes between security forces and demonstrators. The lack of basic services and infrastructure further complicates travel, with shortages of food, water, medicine, and electricity affecting daily life. American travelers are advised to exercise increased caution and remain vigilant at all times, particularly in public spaces and tourist areas. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas has been operating at reduced capacity since 2019, limiting its ability to provide consular services to U.S. citizens in distress. Number 2. Yemen. A country of ancient civilizations and stunning natural beauty, has been engulfed in a devastating civil war since 2015. Resulting in a humanitarian catastrophe and extreme risks for American travelers. The conflict has led to widespread violence, including airstrikes, bombings, armed clashes, and a humanitarian crisis that has left millions of Yemenis in need of urgent assistance. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Yemen, urging Americans to avoid all travel to the country due to terrorism, civil unrest, arrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The security situation in Yemen is extremely volatile and unpredictable, with ongoing fighting between various factions, including the internationally recognized government, Houthi rebels, and other armed groups. Terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and ISIS Yemen operate in the country and pose a significant threat to foreigners, including Westerners. Kidnapping for ransom is a serious risk, particularly in areas outside of government control, where lawlessness prevails. The humanitarian situation is dire, with widespread food insecurity, lack of access to clean water and medical care, and outbreaks of preventable diseases such as cholera and COVID-19. The collapse of Yemen's healthcare system further complicates the situation, leaving many Yemenis without essential medical services. Number 1. Afghanistan. Land of rugged mountains and ancient traditions, has become one of the most dangerous and inaccessible destinations for American travelers due to decades of conflict, terrorism, and political instability. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Afghanistan, urging Americans to avoid all travel to the country due to terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The security situation in Afghanistan remains highly volatile and unpredictable, with ongoing fighting between Afghan and security forces and various armed groups, including the Taliban. Terrorist organizations such as ISIS-Khorasan, ISIS-K, and Al-Qaeda continue to operate in the country and pose a significant threat to foreigners, including Westerners. The risk of kidnapping is pervasive, with criminal and terrorist groups targeting foreigners for ransom or political leverage. The humanitarian situation in Afghanistan is dire, with widespread poverty, food insecurity, lack of access to healthcare, and displacement affecting millions of Afghans. In conclusion, the safety and well-being of American travelers are paramount, and the situations in these countries highlight the harsh realities of ongoing conflicts, terrorism, and political instability. While travel may still be possible in some areas, the risks associated with these destinations are far too great for most to consider. It's crucial for travelers to stay informed about the latest advisories and make responsible decisions when planning their journeys. As we move into 2024, let's remember that some destinations are simply too dangerous, and our safety should always come first. Stay safe, stay informed, and travel wisely.